Guys, I want to start with showing my admiration, which means I admire each and every one of you. It's unbelievable that on a summer day in the middle of July, young boys coming out to a Kinnos, to a Tisha B'Av program. Every other day, when usually we're playing sports, having fun, we're swimming, having a good time in camp or whatever it is that we're doing, barbecues, overnights, trips. You could have stayed home today and maybe drive your mother crazy, but you guys chose, or maybe your parents chose, but it's still special that you came, to come here. And I want to take a moment to just explain what it is that we're doing today and why we're here. What we're doing today is we're saying Kinnos. We have the program over here. What we're doing is we're showing Hashem that we're able to put away, we're able to put aside, even though we're 10, 11, 12 years old, whatever it is, and what's fun for us, and what's exciting, and geschmack, and how we want to spend our summers, we're taking one day, and we're showing Hashem, I care about you too. I always care about you, but on this day, when I know that your Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and it's up in flames, it bothers me, it pains me, and I'm coming here, in this shul over here, and saying Kinnos, which are piyutim, chapters, paragraphs, that were created for us to connect and show Hashem that we're sad too. What the Svarim call Shechina Begalusa, that Hashem Shechina is in exile, it's in pain, and we're here to be with Hashem. We're like sitting Shiva with Hashem. You ever went to Beis HaAva? You ever went to Bimenachem with someone? You ever went? Anybody ever went to go pay a Shiva call? Right? You went? Rahman al we should never go, but unfortunately we know how a Beis HaAva, how a mourner looks. We're all mourning right now. We're all in Hashem's big Shiva house. I told my kids yesterday, we're sitting on the floor. They saw the ashes, they saw the egg, the bread. And yeah, that's a halacha, but what's behind that halacha? What were we doing? I explained to them that this is the mourner's meal. This is what an aval eats. What someone who chas v'shalom who loses a parent, loses a family member. When they come back to their house, the halacha is you eat a mourner's meal, an egg dipped in ashes because you're so sad and broken. That's how we started at Tisha B'Av, and this morning we're here to do the same thing. The Beis HaMikdash is burning. Hashem's house is in flames. And even though it was thousands of years ago, and it's hard to feel, but we're coming back. I'm showing Hashem on Tisha B'Av, Hashem, I feel your pain. Hashem, I'm sorry. And that your pain, Hashem, your pain is my pain. Because I'm your child, you're my father. And if you're my father, then my pain is your pain. We're all one. That's what we're here today to do in the next couple of hours. Before I introduce our first speaker, I want to give a public thanks. First of all, to Moshe Frankel for opening up his house, his beautiful shul, for allowing us to have this beautiful space to be together. So thank you very much, Moshe. You should only see simcha in your house. Your house should be a makom of ashras hashchina, and it should be a place where people could connect to the Bani Shalom and be a mikdash ma'at. I want to thank Rav Mendy, my partner. We're partners together in this, for helping me put this together. We did this together, not helping me, we helped each other. A lot of work went into this, every single aspect of this. And I am ever grateful that we have the opportunity to do this together. So thank you, Rav Mendy. I want to thank our corporate sponsors. There were different companies out there that saw the value of putting this together. So we always have to make sure to be market targeted. So we want to give a thanks to Ayal 11 Law, a thanks to Astrea, a thanks to My Auto Sales, and a thanks to to our local supermarket, Manco. Lastly, I want to give a thanks to our speakers, our contributors, the rabbis we have over here today. We have Rabbi Siegel, we have Rabbi Lowinger in the front over here, we have Rabbi Mendy Fern, we have Rabbi Prero, Rabbi Strauss is coming soon, and lastly, I want to thank Hashem. Even though Hashem is in pain, and Hashem is crying, but I want to tell you something. We're bringing him a lot of joy, even though he's crying. Because if our Father is crying over what he lost, but he knows that his children are coming back, and that they're sitting with him, that in itself brings him comfort, and that even brings him joy. So thank you, Hashem, for letting us come together and giving us this opportunity to show Hashem, to show you that we care, that we're sad for you, and it should be a tremendous chus. That this taco should be the last time we should never, ever say another Kinnos again. And we should see the Beis HaMikdash and Mashiach right now, very, very soon. Without no further ado, I want to introduce Rabbi Siegel, who's going to give us a little introduction into Tisha B'Av and the Kinnos. Rabbi Siegel?
What are we doing here? We're sitting on the floor. Yesterday we had a meal that we choked down, dry bread, cold eggs, maybe it was a little warm still. We're not having fun. What is this? Is it about fun? I'd like to begin with a mashal from Rabbi Zechariah Wallerstein. There was once a couple. The man was a regular, normal man. The wife, she was born with eyes, but those eyes did not work. She could not see. He loved her anyway. He was devoted to her. Every possible need that she needed, he was there for her. He anticipated whoever she might need. He thought in advance whatever it is that she needs. He was so good to her. They had a pretty good life. But there was one problem, one sadness. She couldn't be like all her friends. After all, her eyes don't work. She can't see. All the fun stuff that young women do, they go out to the mall, they go out to eat, they have fun, they get together, etc. She couldn't do that. What a sad situation. And they went to doctors from time to time. Could you help us? Could you help us? And they constantly got, no, sorry. We're very, very sorry. We can't help you. This went on for a few years. And then suddenly, a breakthrough came through in the medical profession. It is possible to help this woman. Her eyes are not useful, but if they could get a donor, then she could once again, well, not once again, she was born blind. She could from now on be able to see. But who is going to give up their eyes? No one. And it was a hope, hoping against hope that somehow, some way, somewhere, something could be done. A major step had been taken forward, but as it was, she still could not see. One day, the phone rings, and she is on the line with her doctor, and he says, an anonymous donor has stepped up, and we have for you eyes. When do we schedule the operation? And she's like, right now. He says, well, we got to make preparations, but I understand you want as soon as possible. Let me check my calendar. Okay, next Tuesday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. How does that sound? She's like, I'm there. Okay. The next week, she was taken to a hospital. The procedure was done quickly. She recovered quickly. They took off the bandages. Behold, Hine Ar, light. She could see for the first time in her life. She is so excited. She's ecstatic. She's filled with joy. And now her life has expanded beyond measure. After all, she could see. And interestingly, her husband wasn't so involved anymore. And as her circle expanded and her possibilities opened, she was less dependent and less involved with her husband, and more involved with her friends, her fun, her hobbies, whatever it is. Life suddenly became a lot larger, didn't it? And she would constantly be out of the house, partying, having fun, mauling, that's going to the mall, doing all sorts of stuff that young women like to do, being up to late hours at the night, not being there for her husband, to talk, to be together, to be a regular couple. And time passed on, and the relationship turned a very sad corner. She turned to her husband and she says, I don't really need you anymore. I think this is over. And he says, look, I always wanted to make you happy. And if this is what makes you happy, I will not fight it. I will accept it. I will give you the divorce. And they arranged a time in Beis Din. He gave the divorce. And before they parted ways forever, he says, please take good care of those eyes. They were mine. Hashem saw that Klal Yisrael was in danger of being destroyed. V'haya eini v'libi sham kol hayamim. My eyes are there at all times. When we were close to Hashem, the pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, Libi, libavtini achaisi kala. My heart's with you, my sister the kala. Libavtini be'achas mi'einayich, with one of your eyes. Eyes, the joy, the light, the happiness. And when Klal Yisrael was close to being destroyed, Hashem gave up kaviyachol. Something similar to that. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. It's very hard for us. We're sitting on the floor. We're bored. What's this all about? I was there also 30 years ago, and you know what? Even today, I'm also there. It's hard. What are we really accomplishing? What are we doing? And I would like in the next few minutes, Be'ez Hashem, to try to offer a perspective so that we could a bit feel this, connect with this, and see a positive value in that which we are doing. Let me begin with the Shla Kaddish. Tiny nugget that's a game changer. The Shla Kaddish, a gadol from like 350 years ago, perhaps 400 years ago, he taught that when we sit on the floor and when we cry for the Beis HaMikdash, do you know what we're actually doing? We are building the Beis HaMikdash Hashlishi. We don't have the first Beis HaMikdash. It's gone. We don't have the second Beis HaMikdash. But I have good news for you. The third Beis HaMikdash is almost completely done. There is just a few finishing touches to be made, and it's there. Mashiach comes. It comes down miraculously min hashamayim, like it says in the Medrash. And we have to do our little part. We have to participate in Hashem's tsar. And the Novominsker Rebbe used to say, what is it that Hashem doesn't have a Beis HaMikdash? In my mind, like, what do you mean? Hashem has Shemayim, Shmei HaShemayim. He has the entire universe. They sent out 30 years ago Voyager 1, Voyager 2. It's traveling at distances, at speeds that we can't even imagine. And it's traveling for so many years. The universe is endless. Hashem needs a tiny Beis HaMikdash. Bein Shaddai Yolin, between the Badei HaMikdash, between the Kruvim, Hashem has to rest. He has plenty, so he's missing a few Amos in this world. What's the big deal? But Hashem says, Klal Yisrael is so precious. Hashem is mevater on everything, and all he wants is to have a hashras hashchina with us down here in this world with our struggles, with our physicality, and we overcome it for His kavod. That's what Hashem wants. And this is the Beis HaMikdash that we hope will return very, very soon. I'd like to offer a small story which gives us an understanding of what is the Beis HaMikdash. What is life with the Beis HaMikdash, and what are we missing, and what are we pining for, and what do we want to get to so that we can have a bit more longing in our Avodah. There's a rabbi in Los Angeles. I knew him. Rabbi Avram Chapnik. So, as it goes, every few years, your house needs a painting. So, he goes and he hires a gentleman, an African-American gentleman, to come down and do the job. He shows up with all the pails of paint, with all the equipment. He's ready to start. He sits down with him, and the painter thinks to himself, yeah, I know what he's going to tell me. I'm paying you good money. I want you to do me a perfect job. Well, the script goes a little differently. They sit down together, and he looks up at the wall, and he sees a beautiful, glossy oil painting of the Baba Verever of Shlomo Zatzal. And he says to Rabbi Chapnik, the African-American, non-Jew obviously, he says, is that your rabbi? No, he's not my rabbi. Why not? Whatever, he's just not my rabbi. I have other rabbis. But why isn't he your rabbi? He's not my rabbi. I have other rabbis. Well, maybe he's not your rabbi, but he's my rabbi. An African-American, a guy has a rabbi, a rebbe. What are you talking about? He says, I've been a painter for a long time, and I was called down to the house of the rabbi, and it was my job to go and paint the house. And the first thing that happened is he sat me down and he says, did you eat breakfast today? I admitted that no, I did not eat breakfast. He sat me down on the table. He served me personally. Bread, cheese, whatever. And he sits with me and we're talking. And he says to me, and I'm thinking, yeah, there it goes again. I'm paying you good money. I want a perfect job. He says to him, look, many years ago, we Jews had a Beis HaMikdash, a house of service to God. In that house, we served Hashem, and life was perfect. But today, we no longer have a Beis HaMikdash, and things aren't perfect. I'm asking you to do a good job. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm only asking you, try your best. As we get into the Kinnos, we want to first know what is the word kina. So, fancy English, lament. What's that? To express in words your sadness, your emotion. Okay, sounds good. First of all, who wrote the Kinnos? So let's back it up. Let's talk about Eicha. Yesterday, we read Eicha. The word, the Megillah Eicha is actually called Kinnos. If you look in the Gemara Bava Basra, it speaks about who wrote different Svarim from Tanakh. And it says Yirmiyah wrote Yirmiyah and Eicha, but it doesn't say the word Eicha in the Gemara. It says the word Kinnos. So Kinnos that we have here on the table, a very special collection throughout the generations of various sad things that happened. It all started with the word Kina that Yirmiyahu wrote. But truth to tell, we have to go even further backwards, all the way to Adam Harishain and Gan Eden. Yes?
One sec. Just want to pause. Guys, it's very important. We have a big opportunity to have Rabbi Siegel over here, and he's giving us something that we might never hear again. Literally the history and all of the timeline and how to really understand what it is that we're doing. So we're gonna a few more minutes. Rabbi Siegel is gonna speak, but really it's important to try to focus and listen to this because it's an experience and an opportunity that we have over here. It's gonna explain what the Kinnos is all about, where it comes from. So another few minutes, guys. Try to focus on this. Very, very important.
In Gan Eden, Adam Harishon was given, according to the simple reading of the Psukim, only one mitzvah. Eat from any tree you like. I assumed there were thousands of trees, and I'm sure the fruit there was amazing. Just one fruit tree, stay away from the Eitz Hadas. The Eitz Hara did his piece. At the end of the day, he ate from the Eitz Hadas. And that's it. He has to be thrown out. Shabbos intervened. No, he won't be out on Friday. He'll be able to stay Friday. He'll be able to stay Shabbos. But Motzei Shabbos, he's out. When Hashem approaches Adam Harishon, what does he say to him? Ayeka, where are you? Let me tell you a secret. Ayeka, Aleph, Yud, Chaf, Hey, that's Eicha. Eicha. Kinnos already started back in Gan Eden, and when Adam messed up, he was chayte, he sinned, he lost the tremendous privilege, he's thrown out, and now he has to go out of Gan Eden. Hashem was very sad, and it says, Kainanti alav eicha. The Medrash says that Hashem lamented, was sad, spoke sad words of Eicha on Adam needing to leave from Gan Eden. And here we have the source, the beginning, where it all comes from of what we're doing. Let me just throw out a little tidbit. The gematria of Eicha is 36. There are 36 krisais, super big averas that a person gets karis, where the neshama chas v'shalom gets cut off, because the neshama is like a rope all the way up to heaven, connecting to the heavenly source. And when a person does such a super avera, chas v'shalom, 36 of them, the soul is cut off, gets krisus. One example today, if chas v'shalom, a person would be Michal Shabbos on purpose, he would get karis for that. Of course, it's possible to do tshuva. It's always possible to do tshuva. Today is Tisha B'Av. It's a day of teshuvah. But Eicha, at the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, the Yidden had violated all 36 krisais. Eicha, gematria 36. So Yirmiyahu Hanavi, he goes ahead and he writes the Sefer of Eicha. Beruach HaKodesh, he's a Navi. And that special Sefer, he didn't write it all at once. The Medrash, the Gemara teaches us, he wrote it a little bit, and it was brought in front of the king. And the king's name was Yehoyakim, and unfortunately, he was not a tzaddik. It seems like quite the opposite. And they start reading in front of him what the Navi, who's warning and warning everyone, because Hashem brought him to the world that we should know, that we should be warned, we should do tshuva, so Hashem doesn't have to do what he doesn't want to do to pick us up and throw us out of Eretz Yisrael and destroy the Beis HaMikdash. But the Yidden didn't pay him any heed, and he, or in advance of the Beis HaMikdash being destroyed, he already wrote Eicha. Not the whole thing, partially. It was brought in front of the king, and the king says, let me hear what's in there. Eicha yashva badad. How could we sit alone? And the king's like, yeah, but I'm still king. B'chay sivke balayla. People are crying at night when the voice carries. Yeah, but I'm king. Gimel, because it goes in order, it's easy to remember. Gimel, pasuk Gimel. Galsa me'aini. They went to Galus in poverty. Yeah, but I'm still king. Till finally he gets to the pasuk about the king going to Galus and him not being king anymore. And then he got angry and he said, who said that? And they told him it's Hashem. You look in the psukim there, it says that. And he took a knife and he cut out the names of Hashem. He threw it into the fire. It was a terrible desecration. And it was really, really horrific. And Yirmiyahu was told by Hashem, go write it again and add to it. And this is the source of Eicha. People think that after the basement was destroyed, so they went ahead and Yirmiyahu wrote Eicha. No, it was already written from before. They were warned from before. So we're about to start the Kinnos now, and we have some words of background. And may Hashem help that this taka be the last time we have to do this. And halavai, in the middle of this, we should suddenly hear that the Mevaster Taiv Eliyahu Navi has arrived.
Who are we to Hashem? Kinnos Zion, the seventh Kinna, Eicha Atzta Ba'apecha, takes a moment to describe what a good people we are and how beloved we always were to Hashem. The Kinna describes we were faithful. Hashem made the promise of the Bris Bein HaBesarim for Klal Yisrael. We're not just any nation. We're the nation Hashem redeemed from Galus in the past. We carried the Degalais, the flags in the Midbar. The Yidden gathered in the Beis HaMikdash 3 times a year for the Shalosh Regalim. We were so close to Hashem. The Kinna continues. At Har Sinai, Hashem married Klal Yisrael. They accepted the Torah. We were Hashem's sheep. And we were the ones that really got to know Him through learning His precious Torah. We're like a vineyard. We're delicious like grapes. And Hashem took us for Himself. And He told us He's never going to leave us. Hashem made the Yidden great. He carried us on Kanfei Nesharim in the past, on eagle's wings, Mitzvah Hashem in the future. We are the ones who are Hashem's greatness. And Hashem gave us 2 crowns at Har Sinai when we said, Nasa v'nishma. And the Kinna ends off. Hashem performed miracles for us. We're His army. We sang special songs in the Beis HaMikdash. We cried out to Hashem. And Hashem came down by Har Sinai with 22,000 malachim. Gave us the Torah. He called us His friends. Showed us so much ava, so much love. We're shleimim. We're perfect. Hashem prepared us, the Har Bayis, with all its strength and impressiveness. And so on Tisha B'Av, as we read Kinnos Zion, we groan and we daven to Hashem. Hashem, remember what has happened to us and bring us home. Kinnos Zion asks a heartbreaking question. How could it be? We are such a good people. We did so much good. How can it be that Hashem seemed to have forgotten all that good? And at the end of each stanza, ends with a tefillah. Hashem, please remember everything that we've been through. Remember all our taiv. And finally bring an end to this galus. Throughout our lives, when anything hard happens, our immediate reaction is to turn to tefillah. We daven to Hashem to save us, to heal us, to remember us, but unfortunately so many times it feels like our tefillahs go unanswered. We've been davening for 2,000 years for this galus to end, yet we're still here. We daven for chaylim to get better, and sometimes they don't. We daven for people who desperately need Yeshuas. Sometimes the Yeshua doesn't come. So the question becomes, what actually happens to our tefillahs? Does our tefillahs really go unanswered? Rav Tzioch Solomon explains, there are 2 things that happen when we daven. The first thing is that we make a request. We say, can I have parnasa? Can I have this e-scooter, Hashem? I want that. Sometimes Hashem says yes. Sometimes the answer is no. But there's a second, deeper thing that's happening. And when we daven and we recognize that there's a Hashem and it all comes from Him, Because of that, we change. We become different people. We're not the same person anymore. And when we're not that same person, even if there was a decree that a person A, something should happen to person A, the more you daven, you become person B. And in person B, there was never that decree. Let me explain with a mashal. You come home, you're hot, you're sweaty, you just played a good sports game, and you say, Ta, Kavan Isis. And your father says, today I'm sorry, you can't have Isis. He doesn't explain whatever the reason is. Maybe you didn't eat supper yet, you didn't do your homework yet, you already got 5 today. I don't know what the reason is. Today he said no, and no is no. 4 minutes later, your younger brother comes in, and he says, Ta, can I have an Isis? And your father says, yeah, you can have an Isis. You start wondering, what's the difference? Ta, what's the difference? How come I can't, but he could? What's the difference? You know what your father's going to answer you? You're 2 different people. For you, there's a no, and for him, there's a yes. There's 2 different people. Even if there's a no sometimes, we have to remember that if you're a different person, then sometimes the answer eventually will be yes. We don't know how much we need to change to become that new person. Only Hashem knows. But one thing is certain. No tefillah ever leaves you the same. Every single tefillah changes you. Even if you don't see it right away. So when you daven, and it feels like Hashem saying no, keep trying. Because you're changing. You did something with your tefillah. And you changed Klal Yisrael. We are not the same nation that went into Galus 2,000 years ago, Rabbi say. We're an elevated, changed nation because of every single one of your tefillahs and every tefillah throughout the history. We just need a little more. And Hashem is waiting for us.
If you go through Kinnos tests, you'll see that it's a very long Kinnos, because from Aleph to Taf. There's a lot of horrible things that happen to us. It talks about Yerushalayim getting destroyed, mothers don't have food for their children. It talks about the Kahanim, the Levim, everyone getting killed, and all these just goes through. It's a very long, 3-page, 4 pages long, depending on what kind of Kinnos you have. And all these horrible things happen. Really, everything that happened was because of the Beis Mikdash got destroyed. Everything, the Crusades, the Holocaust, the Cossacks, everything that happened October 7th, anything, even small things. I'm saying you stub your toe, everything's because the Beis Mikdash was destroyed. And now, one of the things that happened, as you all know, the Holocaust happened, right? There were 6 million Jews that got killed. And during the Holocaust, there was a little boy. His name was Shmuley. As a little boy, he lived in Finland. And he knew the king was walking by his whole entourage in 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and he said, I want to see the king. He told his parents, he told not his parents, he saw his parents were already taken away by the Holocaust. He said, I want to see the king. So the king is going, and it works, and there's 2 huge gates on the side, and there's tons of guards, and the king's coming. And he's waiting, and everyone said, why do you want to see the king? I need to see the king. And he's sitting there, he's waiting. Finally, the guards start coming, right? These guards on the horses, and they start parading down. Eventually, the king's getting closer and closer and closer. And eventually, the king's carriage is coming towards him. And as soon as the king's carriage is passing by, this boy also starts climbing up the gate. Climbs up the gate. The guards, all of a sudden, they don't notice him until he's almost over the gate. He gets over the gate. The guards, hey, what are you doing? Finally, jumps over the gate, gets over, starts rushing towards the king. He's getting closer to the king. He's like 20 feet away, 15 feet away. The guards are closing in. He's 5 feet away. The guards grab him. They start pulling him away. And the king starts seeing the commotion. Says, what's going on? He says, oh, it's a boy. He starts running towards you. He says, I don't know what's going on. The king says, hey, stop. I want to talk to him. So this king calls over this boy. Says, how can I help you? What do you want? So he says, my majesty, you're my king. So my parents were taken away, the Holocaust, they were taken away last week by the Nazis. Say, I'm waiting to get them back for me. I want them back. So he says, you know, what's your name? He says, Shmuel, he says his last name. He says, okay, I'll do what I could do. I'll say what I could do. And the next few days later, his boy's parents returned to him, and the king got him out and got them returned. Someone was saying the story over. Certain speakers were saying the story over in front of a large crowd, and all of a sudden, someone in the crowd was crying. This old man, a few years ago, this old man's crying. So everyone's, oh, must be. So this is the boy in the story. So he turned to the man and called him up and said, oh, you were the boy in the story? You were the boy that jumped the gate? He says, no. He says, I was the boy next to that boy. Second, I didn't jump the gate. I stayed where I was, and my parents were killed. So now, the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Why was it destroyed? Because of sin is chinam. So there's a great Rav that used to say, oi to someone that something bad happens to. But oi, if you don't learn from your mistakes and learn from it. So now, the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Why? Because of sin is chinam. So now, if we think about that, how are we supposed to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash? By working on our havas chinam and loving our fellow Jew. So it says anytime that you don't, any generation that's not, the Beis Hamikdash not rebuilt, it's like we destroyed it. So, we have Tisha B'Av coming up, right? We have Tisha B'Av right now, which some people are going to learn from. When think about it, right? Think about it, what the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Why was it? Because sin is chinam. It's if we don't learn from this Tisha B'Av and take advantage. Or some people are going to learn from this and think about it. Oh, how can I do to rebuild Beis Hamikdash? And they're going to jump that fence and they're going to grow from it. But don't be that person that's going to, down the line, that's going to miss the opportunity, takes the opportunity to rebuild Beis Hamikdash for Hibimenu.
The Kinnos we're about to recite is about a Melech Tzaddik. His name was Yeshiyo. He was from the last kings of Malchei Yehuda. When he was 8 years old, a little background, when he was 8 years old, he began to become king. And for 10 years, he was king. And then a very interesting thing happened. As I mentioned, he was a Melech Tzaddik. But there were, in the Malchei Yehuda, there were some who were tzaddikim, and there were some who were rishayim. A few kings backwards from him, there was a king, his name was Achaz. Achaz means to grab. He grabbed the Torah, and he tried to destroy it. He even went and he burnt all the Sifrei Torah. The Kehanim realized what was happening, and using special permission, they went and they took the Sefer Torah that was hidden in the Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim, and they hid it in a very special place, so well hidden that they couldn't find it again. And it remained there for a long, long time, probably over 100 years. And then suddenly the Kohen Gadol, Chilkiyahu, who was the father of Yirmiyahu, who we spoke about previously, he suddenly found it. And he opens up the Sefer Torah, and you're not going to believe what it says there on top of the page. Hashem will take your king and your nation into Galus. It was a very frightful sign, and they brought it to the king, and as soon as the king heard it, he ripped his clothing, he reised kriya, and he was crying, and he was mispalel to Hashem. And they sent a messenger to the Neviah, Chulda, and the question is, why did you go to the lady Navi? Aren't there this Tzefanya who's being misnabe, who's saying Nevuah in the Bati Midrashim at that time? There was Yirmiyah who was saying Nevuah out in the Shvakim, in the marketplaces. Why go to the Ezras Nashim to speak to Chulda? And they say because she's a woman and she has a soft heart, and maybe she'll be mispalel to Hashem if it's a bad Nevuah, that things should become better. And in fact, that's what happened. She gave a very harsh report. Hashem has seen the evil that you have done. There was a king, Menashe, another evil king, and he had been really horrible, terrible averos, avodah zarah, and many other things. And they were told that Hashem's anger was so great that really Yeshiyo should have been sent into Galus together with Klal Yisrael. But Hashem said, I saw that you cared, and I saw that you cried, and I saw that you were mispalel. And I responded, and in your day the evil shall not come, and you're going to be able to complete your kingship. And he did, and he organized a tremendous tshuva movement. And he sent his soldiers to check in every single house to make sure there's no avodah zarah anywhere. But unfortunately, there were Rishayim in his time, and they played a trick. And on the back of the doors, half, when it's closed, there's an avodah zarah. The king's soldiers burst in, they check the entire house, they can't find even one avodah zarah. Yeah, because the doors are open. As soon as they leave, the door closes, the avodah zarah is back there. And the king didn't know that. And Yeshiyo died in a very tragic way. What happened? There was a king to the southwest, Pari Nechai, Pari the limping one. Why is he limping? Because he tried, oh, you know? Go ahead. Shlomo HaMelech. Excellent. If it wouldn't be Tisha B'Av, I would say an extra brownie bar to the boy in the back, but it's Tisha B'Av. Hashem will reward you even better. So, Pari Nechai, but he doesn't have a quarrel.
Take some credit.
For sure.
You take one after, you take it on credit? Okay.
He doesn't have a quarrel with the king of Yehuda, which is in between, to the northeast, but rather to the next country up, to Ashur. He wants to come make war. Now the pasuk says that if you're doing the Ratzon Hashem, even a cherev shel shalom, even an army that's not coming against you will not pass through your land. And Yoshio made the call. No, you may not pass through my land. And he armed himself, and they went down with the armies, the Jewish armies, to block Pari Nechai. And Pari Nechai says, why are you blocking me? Hashem said I could pass through. And he's thinking, what's this guy talking about? It's exactly the opposite. And everything looks good, but he made a tremendous mistake, which I already revealed to you, that he didn't realize many people were doing Avodah Zarah, and they're not okay. And Yeshio made a tremendous mistake. He should have consulted with the Navi Yirmiyahu, and he did not. And because of that, he went ahead and he did this action. And the archers of Parai's army shot him with 300 arrows. It's hard to imagine that a human body should have room for 300 arrows, and he died. But as he was dying, he acknowledged that Hashem was correct, and Yirmiyahu heard him saying his last words, Tzaddik hu Hashem, ki fihu marisi. Hashem is a tzaddik in what he has done to take away my life at the young age of 39. He was 8 and 31 years of Melucha. Because I was Meira's piv, I refused, I didn't do right. He trusted that Hashem had a good cheshbon. And we see from here the tremendous importance of consulting with Rabbanim, Rebbeim, Gedalim, and not acting upon what we know to be is correct.
The next Kinno, guys, is Kinno Yod Gimel. I'm going to be very honest with you. I prepared something to say. I prepared something a few days ago and I worked on it. And then this morning, right before I came here, I decided to change the whole thing. I wouldn't rip it, but I'm not saying this. I'll tell you why. This Kinno Yod Gimel, anybody know what it's called? A Koi. As Rabbi Siegel explained, A Koi is all a result of Chet of Adam Rishon. And all the questions, A Koi, where are you? What happened? Why are we living in such a painful exile, such a shver galus? Why are there so many tsars in Klal Yisrael? Why are there children dying with cancer? Why are there tragedies? Why are there people in Sloan Kettering? Why was there on October 7th? Why every single day in Eretz Yisrael are the soldiers dying? Isn't Hashem our Father? Doesn't Hashem care about us? If our Father loves us so much, if our Father is the Melech Abba Rachaman, He's compassionate, He's kind, where is He? This world is so bitter. It's so dark. You guys know what happened in Monsey a couple weeks ago? One of my closest friends was driving his car. And unfortunately, it resulted in one of the biggest tragedies that we can imagine. The pain of the loss. Of Rabbi Yidi Hertzberg and his wife's daughter. I was at that shiva. I don't know if there was anything in my life I experienced that was so painful. A mother and father losing their 8-year-old daughter in such a horrific, tragic way. It was a regular sunny day in the summer. I think they were on their way to a barbecue or something. And in 1 hour and 1 minute, their life turned upside down forever. We're not going to go into his pain, into the pain of the parents. And we certainly are not going to go into the pain and the guilt and the remorse of the person that was involved in this terrible, terrible accident. Close friend of mine. I lived in his house for 3 years when I was in Eretz Yisrael. I took over his apartment. We're not going to go into that. But what I want to discuss for a couple minutes. Where is Hashem? Do you guys know? Does your father love you? Would your father ever want something bad? Would your father ever want you to stub your toe?
No.
Would he want you to get a paper cut? How could it be? If Hashem loves us so much, how could Hashem allow such a tragedy to happen? Koi, where are you? Every single time we have these tragedies, our hearts should be exploding in pain, in sorrow, not understanding. Hashem, you love us. We said in Shemoneh Esrei, you guys daven this morning? We said, Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed. Hashem lives, gives us life, He sustains us with kindness. Where's the kindness when such a terrible tragedy happens? How do we understand it? We go through the Kinnos, the same exact thing. Reading it last night, it just hit me. We go from one pasuk, we say, Tza'ak libam el Hashem, choymas basiyin, cry out to the heart, Hashem, kanachal dima, like a flowing stream of tears. We were so sad over the Churban. Al titni fugas lach, don't give respite. There's no way to console yourself because it's so painful. Al tidoim basinich. But then you know what the next pasuk says? Kumi raini valayla. Get up and rejoice in the night. It makes no sense. I'm just telling you that there's a river of streams and of pain. I just told you that the world is coming to an end. That the tragedies seem to never have the finish line. And then the next passage says, get up, kumi raini valayla. Get up, arise, cry out at night. L'reisha shmura shivchi chamayim libich. I'm overwhelmed, I'm overjoyed with dveikus, with happiness to Hashem. What? How do we go from one thing to the next? Guys, the answer is that unfortunately there's no good answer. That's really the truth. And that we live in darkness and we live in pain sometimes. And we give up. We say, Hashem, I know you're in control and I don't understand. That's the emes. That's the truth. But we don't understand that sometimes Hashem has to give din. Hashem has to give us things that we don't understand. And we say, Hashem, shivchi kamayim libech. I don't understand, but I'm going to put my hands up. I'm going to dance in the night because I love you. I don't understand you, but I love you. And I know you're always hugging me. And I know that when it's so painful, I know my heart is bleeding in pain. But I know you're holding me. And that's what's going to make me sing. That's the real answer. But I'm going to tell you one more thing. The answer is that not only is He hugging us from above, but the Baal Shem Tov tells us that you know who's on the floor with us right now, sitting on that towel, on that stool, on that backwards chair? You know who's with us on Tisha B'Av? Hashem is right here. He's on a stool. You can't see Him. But I promise you He's there. if we're all in pain over his bias, over his house, Hashem certainly, it's his house, is on the floor with us. And the answer, says the Baal Shem Tov, is that even though our hearts are exploding, it's like one of those fire hydrants that just exploding with pain. Instead of water, it's just pain, blood, sadness, tears. But says the Baal Shem Tov something that's unbelievable. That the Kumi Roini Balayla is because Hashem is on the floor. He's in this house with us in 520 Engelmere, sitting on one of these chairs, on one of these stools. And the closeness that we can attain, we can grab Hashem right now and daven for whatever we want. You know why? Because during the year, on Simchas Torah, on Chanukah, on Shavuos, he's in Shemayim. He's all the way up. The Malachim are dancing around him. But on day of Churban, on day of pain, when we're all sitting here not in camp, not having fun, giving up for him, God is sitting right next to you. And you can talk to him and you can connect to him. You can ask him for whatever you want. Refuah, Shalom, Parnasa. You know someone that doesn't have kids. You know someone that's parents are divorced and it's so painful for them. You know someone who's sick. God is sitting here. Now's the time to talk to him. We don't understand these tragedies, but we're meant to learn from them. Churban, over and over, and every year, unfortunately, there's this crazy story. Last year we spoke about about a monk and their child. It's unfortunately, but Hashem is talking to us, and Hashem saying, "I know it's painful, but Rabbi say, I'm on the floor with you." So that's the answer. Hashem is the Mechalkel Chaim Chesed. Hashem is kind. Hashem is benevolent. Hashem loves us. And at the same time, sometimes he has to throw us a curveball that we don't understand. It's a punch in the gut. It's a ball that comes so hard, a hard ball right in our stomach. But we say, I know Hashem. I know you threw it to me. And even though it hurts so much, but I know that you're hugging me while just blew me right here. And I know it's all you, and that's how I can be Kumirin and Belayla. And that's how I know that even though like a live river of tears, of pain, but I know it's all from you, and as hard as it is to understand, for the two things to work together, but it's all their B'nai Shalom. So on Tisha B'Av, as we're sitting here, and we're saying, Ei Koi, where are you? Yes, that's our knee-jerk reaction. Where are you? Because it's so painful. But at the same time, the answer is on Tisha B'Av. He's right here, and that's how. We could be Shivchi Kamayim Libech. That's how we could say, Hashem, you're the Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, you're kind. Because I know you love me so much, and it's hard to understand, it's hard to believe sometimes. But on Tisha B'Av, we remind ourselves Hashem is right here with us. It's a time of brokenness, it's a time of pain. But Hashem is with us too, carrying us through.
The depths, the waves were taking them down. When the waves were taking them down, they did not stop davening to Hashem. This Kinnos is talking about there were 400 boys and girls, 400 children who were put on a boat to be sent to Rome to commit Averis, and they were Meiser Nefesh, and they gave up their lives and jumped off the boat so as not to be forced to do Averis. And we all have our own Kisemos Boad Nafsham. We all have our own things in our life that we feel like are drowning us, whether things that seem small or things that seem big, which to Hashem are all big. If you believe that Hashem can do anything, then it's not harder for Hashem to make you hit that ball when you're playing baseball than it is for him to cure that friend or cousin you know that has cancer. It's the same thing. And when we daven, we have to realize that every issue that we have is important to us, is important to Hashem. And we all have different things. Whether people in yeshiva bother us, whether we're having a hard time, whatever it is. And Tisha B'Av is that time for us to feel that pain, to feel our pain which will go away when Hashem's pain goes away, when Mashiach comes, when we have the Beis Hamikdash. Now people go, they daven by Kivrei Tzadikim, they travel the world, and they forget sometimes we have Kivrei Tzadikim right here in Lakewood. Now I personally have a tzaddik that I daven by, and every time I go there I see Yeshua's. You see that he's not buried next to all the other Rabbanim. This boy is buried in the Chelkas HaYiladim. He's buried in the special section, the basic verse, for the children, Rachmana Litzana, who are nifter. Now this boy is not a young child, and usually after Bar Mitzvah, a little older, they don't bury there. But you see, this boy was my Talmud. His name is Matis. And Matis had severe special needs, and therefore he had no Averis, and he was buried there in the Chelkas Yeladim. And I needed a personal Yeshua, and I went to his kever. And I said, Hashem, I took care of your child. I took care of this boy. I took care of Matis. He even lived by my house for a few months. I said, Hashem, please take care of my needs. Please take care of my children, that I should have a Yeshua, that we should have a Yeshua. And I opened up seemingly to a random kapitel in Tehillim. And my eyes opened up from this kapitel, and it showed me how we handle tsaras, how we handle things that are said, and how we're supposed to grow from it. I opened up to kapitel Kuf Yud Ches, and that kapitel is in Hallel, and since then, every Rosh Chodesh, every Yontif, when I say Hallel, it hasn't been the same. The first pasuk that I saw, Loi Amos ki echya v'asaper maseka. I will not die, I will live, and I will speak the Maisim of Hashem. David HaMelech, who himself went through many tzaras, is telling us, when you go through a tzara, when there's something I'd realize, don't be down from it, ki echya, live from it and speak the greatness of Hashem, Yasar Yisranika, because Hashem gave you tzaras for Lamavis Loinus Anani. You're still here to be able to grow from it. And this last pasuk really hit me. And I think almost every Rosh Chodesh since then, I literally cried by Hallel thinking about this pasuk. Even ma'asu abaynim, the stone that was despised, that was put down by the builders. They said, this stone, we don't want it. It's awful. And sometimes we feel like that also, like we're being put down. And the pasuk doesn't say that, you know what, it wasn't good, but it became okay. It said, Haisa l'reish pina, this stone became the reish pina. So when we feel we're down, there's something tough, we realize that we're not just, it's going to be okay, but rather, it's going to be the best. So I'm going to end off with a story that happened that really captures this whole message, this whole idea, and how to deal with the tzaras when we feel kisay moisbo anafshim, we feel like the waves are coming up to drown us. How do we handle it? Pesach, Tafshin, Pei Vav, in a 2-year-old nursery classroom. They're teaching about Pesach, and they're teaching about matzah, and they teach a few songs. And they know that we need to make sure the matzah stays good. We can't touch the matzah till Pesach. We have to make sure it doesn't break. And this girl, Esther, comes home and she sees Tati's bringing home the matzah. He puts it on the top shelf where it's dry, where it's cool. And Pesach's not for another 2 months, so he makes sure that the matzah is going to be okay. And every time that closet opens, she says, that's right, we're not allowed to touch the matzah. The matzah has to stay there. We can't touch it. And it comes Pesach. And she's sitting in her grandfather's house. Call him Abba. And the Seder is set beautifully. The silver is all out. The bechers are there. And he's ready to start the Seder. He puts all the matzahs in the Ka'ara, Kayin, Levi, Yisrael, and they start the Seder. They make Kiddush, they say Kaddish. It's beautiful. Orchatz, Karpas. And they get to Yachatz, and Abba takes out the matzah as he's supposed to, and he breaks the matzah. And the look of horror on Esther's face. And she screams out, Abba broke the matzah. We just learned, we're watching it for 2 months, and he just broke the matzah. And she was in shock. Now to us who have a little more understanding, it's of course he broke the matzah. That's what it's here for. Of course he broke the matzah. But to someone who's a little child who doesn't know what's going on, She was shocked. You told me for months that we're not allowed to touch the matzah. Now you take it and you break it? And that's really what goes on when we have tzaras. When we have something hard for us, sometimes we'll try to say, Gamzu l'taiva, this is also going to be good. It'll be okay. But it's really more than that. We are like the 2-year-old who don't have the full understanding. We don't know the full picture. It's not that the tzara, it's going to be okay. It's that's what we're here for. That's what we're doing it for. Just like the matzah by the Seder, when the 2-year-old is shocked that we broke the matzah, we're not saying, even though we broke the matzah by yachatz, the Seder will still be good. No. That's what we're here for. That's what it was for, and that's what we're here for. We're here to go through the tzaras, like it says in the Kapitel Tilm. Zeh yom asah Hashem. This is the day that Hashem put you here. And it says, Me'ez Hashem ha'iseh. We realize that all this is from Hashem. And as it says in the Kinnos, that even when the waves were going to come take them over, they didn't forget Hashem, and they davened Him. And they had bitachon in Hashem, and they put bitachon in Hashem, understanding that Hashem is the one who sees the bigger picture and how everything is really part of our plan, how it's supposed to be. I heard a vart last night from Reb Binyamin Weinrib, but now I'm seeing it here today, and it makes the whole vart different. Yes, why is Tisha B'Av here in the summer? We're not in yeshiva, we're all in camp. Why is that when Tisha B'Av falls out? So this following Kinnos Yud Zayin speaks about not just the physical destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, but the degradation and how people lost their midas, that they didn't have the midas of a yid of being baishanim, rachmanim, being merciful, gamli chasadim, and along the same lines of Sinas Chino in the story of Kansa and Bar Kansa, and that they didn't have midas. And that's what this Kinnos speaks about. So Rabbi Weiner answered, he said that the Tisha B'Av falls in the summer because during the year you're in your yeshiva with quote-unquote your people. And over here in the summer we have so many different people coming together. We're all with the same goal of mourning the Beis HaMikdash. Together shows the greatest achdus, and we see that here today. Now how does that happen? How does that happen that the Yidden could go to such a low level of losing the midas of a Yid, not having Rachmanas, Baishanas, not being Gamel Chesed? And the answer is that they lose this because they had an ayin hara. They were looking at things with a bad eye, and to fix it, we have to try to work on having an ayin tov, on seeing the good in everything. This year, we had the tzara of losing a gadol, Rabbi Hauer, Rabbi Moshe Hauer from Baltimore. He was a Rav, and he was the head of the OU. For those who know the OU, there are two big parts. It's a hachsher, it tells us which food is kosher, and aside from that, they have a big organization. And Rabbi Hauer was more yeshivish than most of the organization, but because he had an ayin tov, he was able to not only be the head over there, be the Rav, but do it in a way that everyone was so happy. There was a man, the name of Rick Jacobs. This person, he was the head of the Reform movement. And although Rabbi Hauer didn't condone what he did, but when Rabbi Hauer was nifter, this man said that he lost his chavrusa. He said he feels he lost someone who was his chavrusa, because Rabbi Hauer, although he didn't compromise on the halacha, he was willing to shmooze with this person. B'chaim Abadi, who was nifter this year, everyone heard of Rabbi Abadi, was able to help kids who weren't able to do well in yeshiva because he had this ayin tov. And sometimes you look at kids who are not in yeshiva, who are not behaving, and you say, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, but you have an ayin tov. You're able to see that. And that's how we're going to get out of this galus, by seeing not by looking not with the ayin hara, but to see with the ayin tov, and everything see instead of seeing a boy talking during Kinnos, you say, wow, I saw there were a few minutes that he wasn't talking. It must be so hard for him to sit. I'm so proud. It's so amazing that I saw 2 minutes. You see everything. Everything can be seen with the Ayin Tov. When you look around with this Ayin Tov, not only will you be happier, but everyone else will, and this will bring the Beis HaMikdash and the Gula Bakar. The next Kinna brings down a story about the son and daughter of Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, that they were captured and they were put in a room to commit an Avera, and they said to themselves, they sat there crying the whole night, and they said to themselves, each one didn't know who else was in the room. So the son of Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, he said, I'm a descendant of Aaron HaKohen. I'm a princely man. I am not going to go do an Avera. It's unbecoming of me for such a chash of a person, an enical of Aaron HaKohen, to do an Avera. I'm so chashiv, I'm a prince, I'm not going to. And on the other side of the room, unbeknownst to him, was his sister who said, I'm a descendant of Yecheved, I'm a princess, I'm royalty, I'm not going to do any Averis. And the question is, you're a prince, you're a princess, your Beis HaMikdash is being destroyed. You're captured, you're being locked in a prison. You're a prince, you're a princess, you're a prisoner. You're not a prince, you're not royalty. You used to be when there was a Beis HaMikdash, when we had Kahanim, when they were doing Avodah. But now, you're not a prince, you're a prisoner. And the answer is to a guy who's locked up, who's put in jail. He goes down to becoming a lowly prisoner. But a Yid, and we have to realize whatever situation we are in, we are B'nai Malachim. We're amazing. Even though at times things are down, people may not feel so good about what's going on with them. They're not doing well at school. Someone said something not nice. They hurt themselves. They're sad. They're not in a good mood. They have to realize that just like the children of Yishmael Kohen Gadol, when they were locked in prison, they reminded us that in every situation we have to realize we're B'nai Malachim. We're princes and princesses. And this helps you grow in life. When someone says, I'm a nobody, they act like a nobody. But when people tell themselves, you're a rock star, you're amazing, you're such a great guy, it's not gaiva. Don't tell other people that I'm the best in the world, but tell it to yourself. I'm amazing, I'm the best. And it truly makes you grow. And when you realize that we are B'nai Malachim, then we're not going to do Averis, and that's how we see from them, in the story, how we are going to grow.
The next Kinno Chof Aleph. Extremely important Kinno. It's the Kinno that we say not only on Tisha B'Av, we recite it on Yom Kippur as well. Any of the boys know which Kinno, which one we're talking about, what it's about? Lasara Haruge Malchus. What happens is, we're known as the Lasara Haruge Malchus, the 10 martyrs, 10 tzaddikim that we can't even comprehend their greatness. Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, and many others. Those are the most famous ones. To keep it brief, I once heard a story when this is about, 6 or 7 years ago, I was by my shver in Minneapolis, and they have a phenomenal Tisha B'Av program. I heard this Maisa on this Kinno, Arze Halvanen, from Rabbi Engelson, Rabbi in the yeshiva over there, and he shared the following story. The reason why I'm saying it over now is obviously because it stuck with me. It really gave me a feel, a recognition of what Arze Halvanen is. We're on Tisha B'Av. We're talking about these great Talmidei Chachamim, Gedolei Hadar, Tanoim, and we lost them. Why are we talking about it on Tisha B'Av? Why is it so important? So let me tell you the following story. The story goes, Brooklyn, New York. There was a younger man. He's in his late 60s. And his wife, Rachmana litzlan, became very, very sick with a very aggressive cancer. Who does a younger man in Brooklyn, who does he go to? There was one answer. The Rosh Hashiva, the Mir Rosh Hashiva, Rav Shmuel Birnbaum. Now, Rav Shmuel Birnbaum wasn't the Rebbe. He wasn't anyone who took his head outside of a Gemara. Usually when a person wants a bracha, he wants avtacha, he goes to a Rebbe, he goes to a kever, he goes to a tzaddik. But Rav Shmuel Birnbaum was all about Torah, 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 nothing else. And this younger man comes to Rav Shmuel Birnbaum. And he says, Rebbe, it was his Rebbe, he was learning in the Koil. He's learning in the Mir Koil for 30 years. And he says, Rebbe, Rosh Hashiva, he says, my wife is dying. She has cancer. The doctors are giving her just a few more months to live. And he's crying. And he says, Rebbe, you don't understand. It was all of her Mesiras Nefesh, all of these years that I was able to learn. And if we lose her, our house is going to fall apart. My kids are going to lose their anchor. I don't know how easy it's going to be for me to come back and sit and learn more Torah. Rav Shmuel obviously was taken aback and he wanted to do anything he possibly can. But as we said, he felt even himself, Rav Shmuel Birnbaum, the great Rav Shmuel Birnbaum, he felt he was limited. And he said, Ich bin nicht kein tzaddik, ich bin nicht kein kubel. I'm not a big tzaddik, I'm not a big... I sit and I learn. And the Gemara looked back and said, Rebbe, my wife is dying and I need a bracha right now. I need a havtacha that she's going to live. I can't be blown off. You're not blown up. I can't be told that you can't help me. I can't accept that now. Rav Shmuel says, I'm very sorry. With tears in his eyes, he felt he was nice at Baal, but he said, what can I do? The Yigaman was broken. He was shattered. This was his only hope, to go to Rosh Hashiva and get a havtacha. He goes home heavy-hearted, and he's so afraid what the doctors are going to tell the next time they come to the hospital. I'm not making this up. I verified this Maisa. This younger man and this older younger man learning in the Yeshiva goes back to Reb Shmuel 3 weeks later. He says, Reb Shmuel, Rosh Hashiva, I don't understand. He said, I came to you 3 weeks ago. You told me you couldn't do anything. And now it's 3 weeks later. And do you know what just happened? Shmuel's ready for the worst. I went to the hospital. The doctors looked at me. And they said, I don't know how this is possible. We've never seen this before. The cancer is gone. What did you do? It must have been you. What happened? You told me you couldn't do anything. What's going on? And Shmuel said, let me explain to you. He said, when you came and you were so broken, I told you the emes. I'm not a Mekubal, I'm not a tzaddik, I'm not in the Olam HaKabbalah, but I felt my pain for you. My heart was throbbing. And I did whatever I can. So he said, so what did he do? He said, very simple. Shmuel said, I opened my Gemara. I looked inside. And I spoke to Abaye. And I spoke to Rava. And I screamed out and I yelled and I cried. And I said, Abaye and Rava, if you're not going to help me, if you're not going to intercede, and you're not going to be a Melitz Yosher for this younger man, it's going to stir not only his learning, it's going to stir my learning. And for all these years that I'm learning your Torah, I'm asking you for one favor. Heal and give a refuah shalema to this woman, to this sick lady. Arze Halavanon. Who did we lose? Who are these people? These were Tanan, these are Amoraim. That we can't fathom their greatness. We can't fathom the Kedusha that they were, and we lost them. And when we hear this story about someone like Shmuel Berman who just lived 20, 30 years ago, just try to imagine what a Tana was, what an Amira was, what the world is missing. And when we sit and we're misabel on the Churban, we're also misabel on the link to Shemaim, on the link to Hashem. Tzadikim, Tamidei Chachamim. The schus of Torah is what sustains us. The schus of Torah, learning, Abai Rava, the Tanam, the Amarim is what keeps us alive. And when we don't have them, we're in pain. And we're misabel on them. We cry, we lament, and we say, Hashem, we want them back. And we have them back. The world would be a better and brighter place.
Kinnos Vav talks about that Yirmiyahu went to all the Kavarim of all the Avais, Emais. He cried to them, went to Avram and he said, Avram, daven to Hashem that Klal Yisrael should be saved. He said, Avram said, Hashem, please. He said, I give up the 10 tests that you gave me, I passed. And Hashem said no. Yitzchak came, I said, Hashem, I was sacrificed as a carbon. No. Yaakov said, all the Torah I learned. Right? Came to Moshe Rabbeinu, I led Klal Yisrael. No. And it keeps going. And this kind of doesn't say why, but in the day it says that Hashem asked, he went through, all the people went to Hashem. And Hashem said, okay, I'll bring them back. And we know it says elsewhere that the reason why was because of Rachel. Rachel Imenu, what happened? What was their schos was that she gave the simanim to her sister Leah. What happened? That Lavan was that Yaakov was supposed to marry Rachel, and Lavan switched. He was supposed to marry Leah. And the wedding day came, and Rachel knew that Leah would be very embarrassed if Yaakov realized. So she gave her the simanim, so she shouldn't be embarrassed when Yaakov realized that's Leah. And because of that, Hashem saved us, and He brought us into the. Hashem said, "Hashem, don't worry, I'm going to bring you back from Galus." So now I want you to think about this for a second. That Moshe Rabbeinu who led us out of Mitzrayim. Avraham Avinu, who had the 10 tests and was our Abbas, Yisrael, Yaakov, none of them was a big enough schos to save us. Rachel, what did she do? All she did was she gave up the simanim for her sister. And if you think about it, first of all, it feels like a big sacrifice. But at the end of the day, it's not even a sacrifice. Why? What happened? What happened, Rachel Imenu? She gave up her simanim. Now, what happened? Rachel wasn't able to have children in the beginning. Right? And she was barren for a few years. And eventually says, Hashem remembered Rachel. What do you remember? You remember they gave his simanim to Leah. And therefore Hashem opened and let her have children. So now if she never would have given the simanim to Leah, at the end of the day, what would have happened was that she wouldn't have been able to have children. She wouldn't have had a schos. Yaakov would have been married to her for 10 years, and the rule is after 10 years you can't have children, you have to get divorced. She would have to get divorced anyway, and she wouldn't have been able to marry Yaakov. So for her giving up that schos, really, she was able to marry Yaakov. So I want to tell you a story that happened during the Holocaust, that there was a man by the name of Avram. And Avram was in the Holocaust, and as everyone, he was very, very hungry. And he was starving, actually. And one day he was rummaging through the garbage, and he found half a loaf of bread. Half a loaf of bread. So, half a loaf of bread is treasures. Yeah? And half a loaf of bread, and he's holding it. He's so excited he's going to eat this half a loaf of bread. And he's sitting there, and he sees his friend next to him. Yeah? His friend who's sick, and he's dying, and he says, please, I'm dying, I need the bread. I'm hungry also, I need it also, please. He says, no, I'm telling you, I need it, I'm going to die if not, I'm sick, I need the bread, please. He's like, I need it also, I'm not going to die now, but I'm starving, let me have it. And he's thinking, he says, listen, he's going to die. He says, okay, you know what? He gives it to him. He gives it to his friend, this piece of bread that he found, that he cherished. He gave it to his friend, this piece of bread. Now, his friend's about to eat it, he's holding it. Also, these three Goyish prisoners also, these big Polish guys come over and says, hey, what are you doing? You trying to hide bread from us? They take the bread from him, they beat him up, and they kick him until he dies. And now this person realizes, he says, if I would have kept that bread, he said, I would have been the one that got killed. And I would have been the one that they would have beat up and stolen the bread from. So if you think about it, really he gave it, which is Aaron's biggest cost, but really he saved himself. So a lot of times, not only Rachel did she give up the simanim, and this is the thing that's going to bring the geula, but a lot of times not really giving, really you're saving yourself. And last thing I want to say is that you really think that giving up and doing something is going to bring the geula eventually, but it would really be in a second that one thing could bring the chas. Like Rachel Imenu, she gave her the simanim, this brought out the galus. The last quick story I'm going to say is that there was a story during the Holocaust as well. There's two friends that were, one was religious, one was not. Yeah? And the religious man was named Moshe. And Moshe and his friend, Joe, and they're sitting there, and Joe said, you believe in Hashem? He said, of course I believe in Hashem. He said, yeah? Hashem, he said, I believe Hashem could save us, Yeshuas Hashem Karaf Ayin, which means Hashem could save us in a second. So you believe that? 100%. And the Nazis come in, they're about to put him on the train to go to Auschwitz. Says, you believe Ashur Hashem Karaf Ayin? It's 100%. They go into the train, they get dropped off by Auschwitz, and these dogs are barking, and these Nazis are coming in, they're pummeling him, they're beating him up. Says, you believe Hashem, Ashur Hashem Karaf Ayin? It's 100% with all my heart. And this Joe and Moshe are on the line, and as you know, there was a line, and one of the Nazis are there, and he would either bring you to the right or the left. Left means you got killed, and both of them got to the left, which means you're going to go to the gas chambers. He said, Moshe, you still believe Yeshua Hashem Karafayin? He says, 100%. And they keep going, and they're waiting by the gas chambers, they're waiting in line to the gas chambers. And Moshe turns to Joe turns to Moshe, and he says, Moshe, you still believe Yeshua Hashem Karafayin? He says, 100%. They're waiting in the gas chamber, they're coming there, the next up. The door is closed, and the next people are about to go in. They open the door, they're about to go in. He says, Moshe, do you believe Yeshua Hashem Karafayin? He says, 100%. They go into the gas chambers. They close the door. They lock it. They're about to turn on the gas chambers. And everyone, once they turn on the gas, then 2 minutes, everyone's dead. He says, Moshe, finally, trust me. Do you believe Yeshua Hashem Karafayin? He says, I believe it 100%. They're about to turn on the gas. All of a sudden, the doors open. And quickly, not to come and say, I need someone's help. Quickly, he says, you come here. Grabs Moshe, grabs him out, pulls him out. And as he's going out, Joe sees this. He says, Moshe, you're right. Daven for me. You're right. Yeshua Hashem Karafayin. So when you remember this, the way we're going to be in the Geula is, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avram Avinu is a huge things. But the way we're going to be in the Geula, Rachel Yemenu, how? By giving up out of ourselves, right? The base of was destroyed by sinas chinam, by having a havas chinam and loving our friend. And it's not only that I'm going to do this nice thing, it's going to help it be Yeshua Hashem Karafayin, Merit Hashem. We should internalize it.
The Kinnos we're about to read is about a tragic story that took place about 150 years after David HaMelech passed away, that there was a woman, her name was Atalia. She was the daughter of Achav, and she was the mother of the king who died. And when she realized that her son died, she did a horrible thing, and she gathered all the Zera HaMalucha, all the babies, all the children, anyone who had any claim to being a king, and she arranged for them to all be killed. And it seemed like she was successful. It seemed like they were all killed. However, the aunt of this little boy, Yahayash, or Yayash, was actually, her name was Yahasheva. She was married to the Kohen Gadol, Yahayada, and she stole away the child from the room of killing. They took the child, and there was one tiny existence to the Zera of David HaMelech, this child, Yahayash. And where could you hide the child? The king, or the queen in this case, has power to check everywhere. They actually took the child with the nursemaid, and they put them in the Kodesh HaKodashim. Even the Kohen Gadol won't walk in there except 3 times a year, and he paskin it's okay for the special case, and this child was raised in utter secrecy. A child does what a child does. There was the nursemaid, they brought food, whatever had to happen, happened. And all of the Kohen Gadol, who has one tiny thought that's not proper, he right away dies in the Kodesh HaKodashim, and yet this child did what he did, diapers, etc., and nothing happened to him. He survived 6 years. After this time, the Kohen Gadol, his uncle, Yayada, he decided it's now time to reveal to the nation that there is a survivor to the Zera David, Malchus Beis David, and he arranged for protection. He arranged that the queen should be killed, and the nation accepted this child to become their next king. All that's wonderful. And as long as his uncle lived, it was good. But then his uncle, his Rebbe, passed away, and people came to him and they said, you know, you have godly powers. And unfortunately, he listened to them, and they bowed down to him, and they made him into a bit of an Avodah Zarah, and that was terribly unfortunate. And things came to a head on Shabbos, Yom Kippurim, where his son-in-law, the son of the old Kohen Gadol, his name was Zechariah, he was a Navi, and he wanted to come into the Beis HaMikdash as an Avodah Zarah, and the Kohen Gadol, his own son-in-law, stands in front of him, and he says, if you want to come in, you'll have to kill me first. And unfortunately, it's exactly what happened. They killed Shabbos Shechal Ba Yom HaKippurim, Kayin V'Navi. It was the holiest place in the world, Beis HaMikdash, the holiest man in the world, a Kayin and Navi, the holiest time, Shabbos Yom Kippur, and it was a horrific, horrible Aveira, and a miraculous thing happened. The blood that spurted out of him as he died boiled for 200 plus years, all that time, with tremendous anger, divine anger. How could such a thing happen? And finally, the Beis HaMikdash was being destroyed, and the captain of the guard, Nebuzaradan, is there. He's the servant of Nebuchadnezzar. And he comes to the Beis HaMikdash, and he sees on the Azara the blood boiling and boiling. And he says to them, what's this? They said, shechted some karbanos, and He said, let me see. Took a goat, cut its head off, the blood shoots out, doesn't look the same. And he says, either you tell me the truth, or I will flay your skin with iron combs. That's not fun, I promise you. They were frightened, and they revealed the truth. And he got up, and he started killing and killing and killing. He killed the Pirchei Kahuna. He killed Tanekah Shel Beis Rabban. He killed and killed. The Gemara says it was almost 1 million people he killed. 900,000 and 900,000. And finally, he says, Zechariah, I've killed the best of them. Do you want me to kill them all? And the blood stopped. The blood stopped boiling. So what do we see here? We see a tremendous lack of Akaras HaTaiv. We see a person, his very existence is owed to his uncle and aunt, the Kohen Gadol, who raised him and saved him. And what does he do? He doesn't remember that chesed, but he goes and he goes off the derech to be Oved Avodah Zarah, and he kills the son of that person. And how does that connect to the Churban Beis HaMikdash? It's a similar Aveira, a similar thing, where we forget the Chesed Hashem. He took us out of Mitzrayim with tremendous Nisim Gedalim. Every Makkah we say in the Haggadah Shal Pesach could have multiple sections. And then on the Yam Suf, and we had the Be'er Shel Miriam and the Man, Anani Akavid, we went into Eretz Yisrael, and we were victorious against the Plishtim, who, truth to be told, were stronger than us, and yet we won the war because Hashem was Nail the Milchama. And where was our Hakaras HaTaiv? So if we're Mechazik and Hakaras HaTaiv, Hashem should help. We should have the Binyan Habayis, Meher V'Yameinu. Amen.
There's a group of boys in a particular town, probably around your age. They were very bored. It was a Sunday afternoon. They're trying to think what we're going to do. And all of a sudden they hear sirens. This is exciting. They start hearing sirens getting louder and louder and louder. They're trying to think, is it police? Hatzalah? What is it? Starts getting louder and louder. They see it's a fire department. They're rushing to a fire. And all the boys, I don't know if we should do it or not. I'm not recommending it, but they start following the fire trucks. And they see it's going to a certain house. And there's a big fire in the house. And they see that the firemen are fighting with a person inside it. The man doesn't want to come out. Not coming out. They said, if you don't come out in 10 minutes, the house is going to burn with you in it. He says, I can't, I'm very busy. Very busy? What are you busy with? You have to come out, 5 minutes left. He says, I'm almost done. So finally, one of the firefighters, he couldn't take it. He said, what are you so busy with? What are you doing? He said, I'm killing a mosquito. I'm trying to kill a mosquito. Mosquito? This is what you're doing? Your house is burning down? Says Reb Chaim Volozhiner, if a Yid would know how important it is, if you would know how special the Beis HaMikdash is, anything else that we ask for, anything that seems important to us, is like wanting to kill a mosquito when the house is burning down. Even if a person is camp, is going on a trip, it's so exciting, right? But the truth is, the Beis HaMikdash is so important, thinking about anything else is like trying to kill a mosquito. Adults would be moichel me if I prepared on an elementary level. Every single one of us, our neshama wants to get to the Beis HaMikdash. And the Rebbeinu Shalom is looking on Tisha B'Av, if we could try to connect and try to show Hashem that we want to go to the Beis HaMikdash. The truth is, everybody is supposed to be sad on Tisha B'Av. We're supposed to be sitting on the floor. And I want to ask you 3 questions. Maybe you'll be able to answer me. Why is it so important to be sad on Tisha B'Av? Rabbi Soslanter says that on Tisha B'Av, a person can reach a madrega like on Yom Kippur. We know Yom Kippur, a person is davening. He asks Hashem to be moichel. And he becomes totally clean. We understand how he gets so close to Hashem. But on Tisha B'Av, when the Yid sits on the floor, he's going to get so close to Hashem. How does that make sense? There's a very interesting ritva that he says there's going to be a Tchias HaMeisim when they build the Beis HaMikdash. What does Tchias HaMeisim mean? A person dies, all of a sudden, imagine you see your friend, hey, one second, I think you just died. No, but I just had Tchias HaMeisim. All of a sudden, you see all your friends, everybody is going to all of a sudden be alive. And if a person does what he's supposed to be, he's going to have Tchias HaMeisim. But says the ritva, there's going to be a special Tchias HaMeisim when they build Yerushalayim, a special Tchias HaMeisim. And the only people that are going to be able to get up is those people that sit on Tisha B'Av and they think about Yerushalayim. Why is it so important? Why is it so important to think about that? Another question I want to ask you, imagine there's a big sign in Manchester. There's going to be a big Bazunji that's coming to Manchester. Very exciting thing. A Bazunji is coming to Manchester. How exciting would that be? Now, I don't know what a Bazunji is. I just made it up, right? It's very hard to be excited about something that you never saw, right? So how are we supposed to be sad about something that we never saw the Beis HaMikdash? How are we supposed to be sad? And I think the answer is, and I'll give you a mashal. There was once 2 friends, Yankel and Beryl. They were really good friends since kindergarten. They were in the same class. In elementary school, they were in the same class. They went to Mesivta together. They went to Eretz Yisrael together. They went to Kerl together. And they got married together. They even live in the same block together. And one day Beryl says, I'm moving out of town. Yankel says, I can't believe it. You're my good friend. You're moving out of town? He says, yes, I'm going to out of town. And Yankel makes him a big Sudas prayer. He makes a goodbye party for him. And they keep in touch. And one day, Yankel walks into shul, and he sees in the coffee room, people are looking at a newspaper, and they see there was a particular house out of town. Someone's house burnt down. And everybody's like, okay, this is cool. Yankel comes over, and he sees the newspaper, and starts crying. Tears start falling down his face. He says, I don't believe it. This is my friend Yankel. They see a picture of this is my friend Beryl. They see a picture of Beryl there. And he's sad. He sees he's next to his house, completely burned to the ground. What's the difference between these 2 people? Why the people in shul think it's just cool news? The Yankel is all sad. The answer is yes. Excellent. Beautiful. What's your name? David Salzman. David Salzman said, you know why the other people weren't sad and he was? Because he was friends with him. He had a relationship with him. So one of the people in shul said, I don't understand. Did you ever see his house? You ever saw how big it is? You ever saw his kitchen? You ever saw his dining room? You ever saw his house? Why are you so sad his house was burnt down? And Yankel looks at him and he starts smiling, even though he's crying. He says, that doesn't make any difference. I'm friends with him. It doesn't make a difference how his house looked. It doesn't make a difference if I saw his house. I'm sad because I see that he's sad, my friend is sad, and I'm close with him, I'm going to be sad. On Tisha B'Av, Hashem wants to see how close we are to Hashem. The reason why it's such an important day is because on Tisha B'Av, it's a day where Hashem is sad. And if we're close to Hashem, like that friend, even if we never saw the Beis HaMikdash, even though it was such a long time ago, but we're going to feel sad because Hashem is sad. We're going to introduce the next Kinnos now. The next Kinnos is a Kinnos from that was introduced by a very, very, very chashuv Yid, who lived a long time ago. His name is Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. All his life, he dreamt of one thing. He wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. I remember when I was in camp, someone in my division in 4th grade, I got a call from a mother. It was right before the overnight. And she asked me a couple of questions about the overnight. And she says, I want you to tell you, my son, he's so excited for the overnight. He's thinking about it since Hanukkah. By the Hanukkah party, he's talking about, because 4th grade in my camp is the first year that anybody goes on an overnight. I don't know about your camp, maybe you go earlier. He was so excited by the Hanukkah, by the Purim, Pesach. The whole day, all he's talking about is that he's going on an overnight. He said, I want you to know how excited it is. If you could please try to give him a good time. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, all his life, you know what he talked about? You know what he's excited about? I can't wait to get to Eretz Yisrael. I'm so excited to go to Eretz Yisrael. He wanted to be by the place where the Beis HaMikdash was. And this Kinnos teaches us a lesson. We should try as much as we can to tell the Rebbeinu Shalom, we want to come to the Beis HaMikdash. We want to come to Eretz Yisrael. And when Hashem builds the Beis HaMikdash, it's going to be the greatest thing that ever happened. But Hashem wants to see. If we're sad on Tisha B'Av and we say, Hashem, we really want a Beis HaMikdash, then Amir Hashem is going to give us the Beis HaMikdash.
The following Kinnos is very different than all the other Kinnos that we had till now. Something special, unique, and painful. Something that happened much more recently. Happened to our Bubbies and our Zadis. Written by Reb Shimon Schwab, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Uvracha. The next Kinnos talks about the Holocaust. The Holocaust, as we know, was a terrible time in our history when the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, set out to persecute and destroy Klal Yisrael in Europe. Altogether, 6 million Yiddish and Neshamas were murdered on Kiddush Hashem. When the Nazis started out in 1933, they didn't start killing right away. They built up. They tried making new laws, and they made cruel laws against the Yidden. They didn't let shchita. They didn't let people join their businesses. They organized violent attacks against the Yidden, the Jewish communities. Step by step, the persecutions grew harsher every year. Eventually, the Nazi leaders decided, with their wicked plan, that they're going to have something called the final solution. Their goal was to completely destroy all of Klal Yisrael in Europe. And they carried out systematic murders during the period of World War II. And by the end of the war, 6 million Kedoshim had lost their lives. You know, it may be very hard for us to think about very difficult things. When someone says the number 6 million people died, it's very hard to really understand. It's like too big of a number. You may end up feeling a little bit numb. Like, okay, very nice, 6 million, thank you. Like, I don't really understand it. And if I can't really understand it, it's hard for me to care about something I don't understand. So what am I doing here on Tisha B'Av? How can I feel the Chorban if I don't really, it's too big, I don't know, what's going on over here? And boys, in many ways, this is what Tisha B'Av is all about. We don't know. We don't understand. That's the cry of Eicha. How can this be? I don't understand what's going on. I'm confused. We must live with not understanding. And that's okay. That's Eicha. At the same time, we heard the Eicha has another meaning. Ayaka, where are you? Even though we don't understand, we have to try to seek, to try to understand. Try to connect to what happened. I want to give a muscle for this. I went outside a few minutes ago, and I went to look for my car. I needed something. My car wasn't there. It was gone. I was so confused. What happened? My first feeling was, Eicha, what's going on? I'm so where is this? I had to live with uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what this was. But guess what? I got to look for my car also. Ayaka, where is it? Looking for it. That's the two pieces of Tisha B'Av. I don't know. I don't know where it is. Let me go look for it. I don't know what happened. Although we may never get to completely understand, let's try together. So I want to ask everyone in the room, take a moment. Why don't you all try to close your eyes? Now let's go on a little bit of a trip for a second. Imagine you're playing a game with your best friend, whether it's basketball, baseball, a card game, and you're sitting there. And take a moment to imagine having a fun time, having good feelings. It's a fun game. It's good competition. Look down for a second. Hold that picture in your mind. Now imagine in the middle of the game you look up and there's no one there. All your friends are gone. Where are my friends? Where did they go? I just want my friends back. But they aren't here anymore. And they're not going to return till Tchias HaMesim. So you run home. And you're scared. And you want to tell your mother or your father about what just happened. Your friends. But the house is cold and silent. The whole neighborhood is empty. Everything is quiet and still. And you're standing alone. You're asking, what just happened here? Where is everyone? There's no one to go home to. And I don't even know where to turn. That's a small taste of what it feels like to go through losing everyone. Although we can't really understand, by trying to connect, by trying to understand, and trying to uncover a feeling that was lost, of people that we lost throughout Europe, throughout this long Galus, and in Yerushalayim. May our search today bring us that Hashem should answer our calls of Ayaka, where are you? We should be no more confusion of Eicha, of how can this be? And Hashem should rebuild the base on Mikdash from here, Amen.